The smell of gumbo simmering in the cast iron pot used to mean comfort. Mondays were always the same, and that was exactly how I liked it. Caroline would set the table, humming some Motown tune. Grant, my boy, 17 and sharp as a blade, would grumble from his room until I told him dinner was ready. That night started just like any other. I was ladling gumbo into 3 bowls when Caroline breezed in, wearing that floral apron she loved, the one Grant always said made her look like she walked out of a Southern Living ad. She leaned over the pot, sniffed, and kissed my cheek. "That's the good stuff, baby." Grant walked in a second later, stone-faced. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down and stared at the bowl in front of him. Something about his eyes made the back of my neck itch. He looked too calm, too still. We all sat down. Caroline said grace. I passed the cornbread. Then she took her first bite. It happened fast. Caroline started coughing, just a little at first, like something went down the wrong pipe. But then it turned violent. She knocked her water glass over, gasping, clutching at her throat. Her face turned red, then purple. She slumped sideways in the chair, hacking so hard I thought she was going to pass out. "Call 911. I yelled, grabbing her shoulders. "Caroline, stay with me." She coughed one last time and then vomited blood. My brain didn't register it at first. Just red, splattered across her plate. Her blouse. My damn gumbo. I fumbled for my phone with one hand and held her upright with the other. And then Grant spoke. Calm. Ice cold. It wasn't supposed to be her. I looked at him, still dialing, trying to process what the hell he just said. "What?" Grant's voice was steady. I switched the bowls. He didn't flinch. Just stared at me. "It was meant for you." My hand froze on the phone. "What are you talking about?" "I thought she'd serve the one with your initials on it like she always does," he said. But she grabbed the wrong one. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Couldn't believe this was real life. I shoved the phone to my ear, barely listening to the operator on the other end as I gave our address. My wife was vomiting blood on the kitchen floor, and my son just told me he'd poisoned me. And the worst part? He looked dead serious. I drove Caroline to the ER myself. The ambulance would have taken too long. Grant stayed behind, said he didn't want to come. I didn't argue. I couldn't even look at him. On the drive over, my mind was racing. 17 years old. My son. My boy. What the hell had I missed? What had he seen? What did he know that I didn't? I parked like a maniac outside the ER entrance and carried Caroline and myself. She was breathing, but just barely. Her pulse was thready. Weak. Inside, doctors swarmed us. Asked questions I couldn't answer. I just kept shaking my head. "She ate dinner," I said. It happened right after dinner. They started her on fluids. Took blood. Hooked her up to all kinds of machines. I stood in the hallway with blood on my shirt, not sure what was real anymore. My son tried to kill me, and my wife almost died instead. That was the night everything changed. That was the night I stopped trusting anything I thought I knew. The waiting room was quiet, but my thoughts were screaming. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept seeing Caroline's face, the blood, Grant's voice echoing in my head. "It was meant for you." I couldn't sit still. I paced a rut into the floor. Nurses passed by, giving me that mix of sympathy and suspicion I'd seen too many times in uniform. I recognized the look, like they weren't sure if I was a victim or the threat. Finally, a doctor came out. Young guy, maybe late 30s, with the calm voice of someone trained to deliver bad news without flinching. "She's stable for now," he said. "We pumped her stomach. Ran labs. It's good you got her here when you did." "What was it?" I asked. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "Looks like she ingested a corrosive substance. Based on the symptoms, blood in the vomit, burning of the throat lining, it was something strong. Industrial, even. This wasn't accidental." I nodded, jaw tight. "So someone poisoned her." The doctor hesitated, then gave me a careful look. "We'll have to file a report. With something like this, we're required to notify authorities. Just so you know." I didn't argue. I wasn't surprised. Hell, I was grateful. Someone needed to know what was going on, because I was too close to it. Too shaken. I stepped outside the room and called Grant. He picked up after one ring. "Is she alive?" "She's stable," I said. "You want to tell me what the hell happened?" There was a long pause. Then he said, "You need to come home. I need to show you something." I didn't say a word. I hung up, told the nurses I'd be back, and drove like a bat out of hell. When I walked through the front door, Grant was waiting for me in the living room. Calm. Too calm. He had my old army footlocker pulled out from under the stairs, his makeshift evidence locker, I guessed, and a bunch of papers laid out across the table. "I've been watching her," he said, not even trying to ease into it. "For weeks." "Watching who?" "Caroline," he said. I knew something was off. She always made two bowls. Always gave you the one with the napkin folded a certain way. Always served yours first. So I started watching. My stomach turned. "You switched the bowls?" "I labeled them," he said, showing me a photo on his phone. "See the bottom?" A little M scratched under the ceramic glaze. The one she served herself tonight had that M. She grabbed the wrong one. I sat down, legs too shaky to hold me up. Grant opened his laptop, clicked through a few folders, pulled up text messages. "Look at this," he said, scrolling. "She's been texting someone named Elise. Meeting up secretly." I found screenshots. In search history, she looked up household poisons, side effects, how to make it look like food poisoning. He clicked again. Brought up a screenshot of a message. "Don't worry, he never suspects anything. Soon we'll be free." I thought she was cheating, he said. But this is worse. I looked at my son, who had just saved my life by nearly killing his stepmother. I should have been furious, but all I felt was cold. The doctor was right. This wasn't accidental, and someone needed to answer for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Caroline was sedated in a hospital bed, and my son was under my roof with a plan that could have landed him in prison. And somehow, the part one couldn't shake wasn't the poison, it was that I hadn't seen any of it coming. At 2 a.m, I fired up my laptop. Not the family computer in the den, but my old Air Force issue that I kept in the garage, locked up and untouched for years. Still worked like a charm. I plugged in the external drive Grant had handed me and started combing through the files. He'd been thorough. I'll give him that. He'd recorded screen captures of Caroline's browser history. Dozens of search terms like fatal kitchen cleaners, undetectable poisons, and slow-acting toxins in food. She'd even Googled how to dissolve rat poison into liquid without smell. There were chat logs, too, an entire folder labeled Elise. I clicked into them, and my jaw clenched with each message. Elise, he's still clueless? Caroline, of course. The old man thinks gumbo's his love language. He's practically feeding himself the solution. Elise, what about the will? Caroline, everything goes to me. He updated it last fall. His lawyer's a joke. Elise, God, I can't wait. Imagine the life we'll have. Just you, me, and his assets. My stomach twisted. I wasn't a rich man, but I built something over the years. A decent house, a retirement account, and a garage full of tools that meant something to me. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to erase. And Elise, I found her real name a few messages later, was Celeste Armory, a name that rang a bell. Her family owned a vineyard estate in Paso Robles, one I remembered from a fundraiser Caroline had dragged me to years ago. Wealthy, entitled, and judging by the tone of these messages, every bit as ruthless. One message stopped me cold. Caroline, he's ex-military. Always 2 steps ahead. Gotta time it just right? Elise, don't wait too long. My trust is drying up. We need to move before July. This wasn't an affair. It was a timeline, a schedule, a strategy. I started printing. Every file, every photo, every piece of evidence. The whir of the printer was the only sound in the house besides my heart pounding in my ears. I arranged everything into folders, labeled and ordered. Poison, texts, financials, timeline. Elise. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was tactical. Caroline had studied me. She knew my habits, my routines, the days I skipped lunch, the nights I doubled up on servings. I saw it now, all of it. The odd errands, the strange smiles, the way she'd insist I eat first. She was running a play, but she'd underestimated one thing. I might be retired, but I wasn't unarmed. I had training, I had instinct, and now I had motive. By sunrise, I wasn't just a husband scorned. I was a man planning his counterstrike. By morning, the folders sat on the dining table like landmines. I didn't open them again. I didn't need to. Every word, every screenshot, every emoji-studded message between Caroline and Elise, Celeste, was burned into my brain. But before I acted, I needed to reckon with one thing. How the hell I'd let it get this far. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen island, staring at the same spot where Caroline had collapsed 2 nights ago. My head was pounding, not from lack of sleep, but from clarity. And the memories started lining up like dominoes. There was the first lie. Years ago, she told me her brother died in a car crash. She sobbed in my arms for hours. I sent flowers to an address that didn't exist. Later, I found out she was an only child. Then came the hospital bills. That story about her mother's cancer treatments being out of network. She needed $5,000 to cover the deductible. I wrote the check without blinking. Her mom sent a Christmas card later that year from Florida. Healthy as ever. She spun stories like a spider spins silk, slow and careful, always with a few tears at just the right moment. A dying aunt. A stolen inheritance. A fire that destroyed old photos she never quite produced. And I, like a damn fool, believed every single one. I used to call it emotional stress. She called it bad luck. But looking back, it wasn't either. It was testing. Conditioning. She'd throw a lie, see if I flinched. When I didn't, she'd raise the stakes. The pattern was clear now. Every crisis had a purpose. Every tear had a target. And it always ended with me opening my wallet or lowering my guard. I looked at the pictures of us on the mantle, Caroline with her bright smile, holding Grant on his birthday. Her arms wrapped around me at our wedding. I used to think those moments were real. Now I couldn't tell if any of them were. There was a time I would have cried about that. But not anymore. I'd run through all 5 stages of grief in a weekend. Now I was just ready. I walked down the hall and opened the hallway closet. Pulled out my old deployment bag. Inside was a waterproof pouch with copies of our legal documents. Her name was on too many things. That was going to change. I made the first call to my lawyer. Then I made the second to the bank. By the time I heard the car pull into the driveway, the folders were gone from the table. I'd stashed them in the locked cabinet in the garage, right next to my tools. The ones she never touched. Caroline walked through the front door with a bouquet of flowers and a forced smile. I met her at the door with a kiss on the cheek and a warm welcome home. Because for now, the game was still on. She thought she still had the upper hand. And I needed her to keep thinking that. The next morning, I called Daniel. We'd served together in the Pacific, back when we were both young, dumb, and thought invincibility came with a uniform. These days, Daniel ran a cybersecurity business out of a trailer near Lake Travis. Still sharp. Still loyal. When I told him I needed discreet eyes and ears in my house, he didn't ask why. He just said, "I'll be there by 4. Make sure she's out cold." By the time Caroline finished her pain meds and went up for her afternoon nap, Daniel had parked 2 houses down, carrying a black duffel bag and a small case that looked like it belonged in a heist movie. "Good to see you, old man," he said, clapping my shoulder. "Didn't think I'd be breaking into your own place with your blessing." I didn't smile. "This isn't just paranoia, Danny. She's trying to kill me." He didn't laugh at that. Just nodded and went to work. We installed 2 pinhole cameras in the kitchen, one tucked above the fridge, another inside a hollowed-out smoke detector. 2 more in the living room and hallway. He slipped audio mics into the baseboards and light sockets, plus a hardwired recorder in the attic that fed into a secure drive I'd keep locked in the garage. It took under an hour. Before he left, Daniel pulled me aside. "This gets worse, Marcus. You call the cops." "I mean it. Don't try to play soldier in your own damn house." I nodded, but we both knew I wouldn't. That evening, I sat in the garage with the monitor propped on my workbench, as glued to the split screen as Caroline moved through the house. She was different now. Slower. Cautious. She flinched when the phone buzzed. Kept glancing at the front door like someone might be watching. She didn't touch the gumbo leftovers. In fact, she avoided the fridge entirely. At one point, she stood over the trash can and dumped something from her purse. I noted the time, 9:14 p.m. I'd check it later. Around 10, she called someone. I couldn't hear the full conversation, the phone mic didn't catch it all, but I heard a few key phrases. "Too close. Grant's watching me. Might need to move things up." And the one that froze my blood, "He's getting nosy. We need to figure out what to do about Grant." I stood there in the garage, fist clenched, heart hammering. It wasn't just about me anymore. They were planning something. Something worse. I backed up the recording, marked the timestamp, and stored the drive in my safe. She wanted a war? She was going to get one. But I'd be the one writing the playbook. The next night, I was in the garage again. Same chair, same feed, same pounding in my chest. Caroline was curled up on the living room couch, phone in hand, wine glass untouched on the table beside her. She'd been quiet most of the evening, pacing earlier, muttering under her breath. But around 11:22 p.m., her phone buzzed. She answered without hesitation. The audio came in clean. Daniel's mics were worth every penny. "Celeste," she whispered. That was it. That was the name. I can't keep doing this, Caroline said, glancing toward the hallway. He's watching me. Grant, too. They're on edge. Celeste's voice came through, smooth, precise. Then move faster. We're running out of time, Caroline. I'm bleeding money here. My trust fund's been frozen, and I have investors breathing down my neck. Caroline rubbed her temple. I told you, I tried. Celeste snapped. You were supposed to be done by now. I handled my situation, didn't I? There was a silence. Caroline's voice dropped, barely audible. Your situation was different. No, Celeste said coldly. It wasn't. My wife didn't see it coming. Neither should yours. My stomach twisted. There it was. Confirmation. A second death. A pattern. Celeste had done this before. Look, Caroline said, her voice shaking now. Marcus changed his routine. He's suspicious. If I try anything right now, he'll know. Celeste sighed dramatically. Then get creative. You said something about that glider trip. Caroline hesitated. He's planning one. This weekend. Solo. Well, there you go, Celeste said, like she was suggesting an outfit. Rig something. Fuel leak. Parachute failure. You've got a military mechanic husband. You think the cops are going to question his own gear? Accidents happen. They laughed. Not nervous laughs, real ones. Soft. Familiar. Then Caroline said something I'll never forget. God, I can't wait till it's over. We'll sell the house, move to Napa. And Grant? I'll ship him off to college with whatever's left from the trust. He's smart, but too nosy. Just like Marcus. Don't worry, Celeste replied. Once he's out of the picture, you'll have everything. No more questions. Just us. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly knocked the monitor over. I hit record again, even though I already had everything. They were planning it. Right down to the inheritance. And Celeste, this wasn't her first time. My mind flashed back to that fundraiser years ago. Celeste in a black velvet dress, arm wrapped around a quiet brunette she introduced as her wife. The woman had died a year later. Car accident, they'd said. Or was it a fall? I couldn't remember. But now I knew the truth. Celeste didn't just prey on people. She partnered with them. And Caroline? She'd made her choice. I let the feed run all night. Every second of that call, every giggle, every casual mention of my death was captured and saved. 3 different drives, 3 different hiding places. They thought I was in the dark. But I had everything. And I wasn't going to the police yet. I was going to bury them with their own words. The next day, I drove out to Bastrop to see my sister Lena. She retired from the county coroner's office a few years back, but she still kept her lab pristine. It was her pride, tucked behind her house, clean stainless steel, full-spectrum testing equipment, and the kind of quiet that made truth easier to hear. She didn't ask questions when I handed her the sealed containers. From your kitchen, she asked, eyeing the Ziplocs labeled stew sample, sauce remnant, and fridge contents. From Monday's dinner, I said. The one Caroline collapsed after. Her mouth tightened. She gave me a slow nod, then went to work. While she prepped slides, I sat on the corner stool, tapping my fingers on the metal tray, waiting. I had the drives in my truck. I hadn't planned on showing her those yet. I need to ask you something, I said. Lena didn't look up. Ask. You remember that vineyard heiress's wife? Celeste Armory's ex. The one who died up in Napa a couple years back. That got her attention. She set the slide down and turned. Julia Wren. Mid-30s. Died after collapsing at a private dinner party. Cause of death was technically inconclusive, possible allergic reaction, they said. I never bought it. Why not? Lena leaned against the counter. Because she had unexplained clotting in her lungs and microtears in her esophagus. That doesn't happen from shellfish or red wine. I felt my jaw tighten. Caroline almost bled out the same way. She blinked. You think they're connected? I know they are. I told her everything. The hospital, the swap, the text messages, the audio recordings. I didn't play them, just described enough to make her go still and pale. Lena exhaled. Marcus, this is premeditated. You understand that, right? This wasn't an argument gone bad. This is months of planning. I nodded. She almost got me. Would've, if Grant hadn't stepped in. She looked at me for a long time. You want me to run toxicology quietly? Yes. She grabbed a notepad and started scribbling. Then you need to take legal action now. Change your will. Lock down your assets. Already working on it. By the time I left her house, I had a signed affidavit stating Caroline's stew sample contained residue from a corrosive substance consistent with ethylene glycol compounds. Industrial antifreeze, essentially. Slow acting. Damaging. Easy to mask in something thick like gumbo. I called my lawyer on the way home. Removed Caroline as beneficiary. Transferred the house deed into a private trust with Grant as co-owner. Froze the accounts we shared. Drafted a formal cease and desist notice for any future claim she might attempt against my estate. By sunset, she no longer owned a damn thing with my name on it. That night, I watched her move through the kitchen like nothing had changed. But everything had. The next time she reached for me, she'd be grabbing at air. And the net would already be closing. By Thursday, the plan was in motion. I told Caroline I needed a weekend off, just some time in the hill country, gliding solo like I used to back in the day. She didn't question it. Just gave me a soft kiss on the cheek and said, "You've earned it, baby." She thought I was flying right into her hands. What she didn't know was that I had booked a room at a hotel 15 minutes away, tucked behind a gas station off I-35. Daniel had the surveillance rig connected remotely through a laptop. Grant was staying at a friend's house for the weekend, safe, out of sight, and fully briefed on what we were doing. Saturday afternoon, I checked into the room, watched the cameras, waited. Around 6:42 p.m., Caroline changed clothes. She was humming. By 7:10 p.m., the doorbell rang. Celeste Armory, blonde, sharp-edged in a navy pantsuit. She stepped inside with a bottle of wine and a confident smile, like she owned the place. They didn't waste time. "We're finally here," Celeste said, setting the bottle down. "He's flying, right?" Caroline nodded. "Won't be back till Sunday night. Maybe later." Celeste kicked off her shoes and flopped onto the couch. "Perfect. Did you delete the texts?" "Most of them." "Most?" Celeste raised an eyebrow. "I've been busy, all right?" Caroline snapped. "I had to clean the whole damn house so it wouldn't look suspicious. And his lawyer's been sniffing around. I think Marcus is changing something with the will." Celeste waved her off. "Doesn't matter. You've still got the trust. And once this is over, we'll be rolling in it." Then came the part that made my hands go cold. "Did you find the glider schematics?" Celeste asked. Caroline smirked. "Better. I found his old maintenance logs. I can rig the rudder servo, make it look like a mechanical failure. By the time they find the wreckage, it'll be too late." Celeste raised her glass. "To inheritance." They clinked glasses. Then Caroline leaned in and whispered something so vile, I had to rewind and play it twice just to believe it. "Once the money clears, we'll send Grant to some Ivy League out of state. Change his number. He'll get over it." Celeste nodded. "He's too much like his father anyway. Uptight. Always watching." They laughed. Careless. Comfortable. They didn't know they were being recorded from 4 angles. They didn't see the timestamp logging every word. Didn't notice the little hum from the socket mic near the couch. By midnight, they were laying out the whole timeline. When the accident should occur, when the life insurance policy would be triggered, how long Caroline needed to wait before making any official moves. I had over 4 hours of crystal clear audio and video. Every word, every smile, every casual joke about my death. By dawn, Daniel had 3 encrypted backups. One for the authorities, one for my lawyer, and one for me. It was no longer about stopping them. It was about exposing them. And that moment, it was coming faster than they ever expected. Sunday afternoon, I made the call. I told Caroline I'd be back that evening, that the glider trip went smooth, no problems. She sounded relaxed, even cheerful. "Can't wait to see you, baby," she said, voice sugary sweet. "I'll have dinner ready." Perfect. Instead, I drove downtown to Marlowe's Cafe, a busy little place on 5th Street with a patio shaded by big red umbrellas and packed with weekend brunchers. The kind of spot where no one looks twice at a phone pointed across the table. I was already seated when Celeste and Caroline arrived. They didn't see the woman sitting 2 tables behind me, sunglasses on, latte untouched. Her name was Melanie Wren, sister of Celeste's dead wife, and she was a freelance journalist who hadn't stopped digging since Julia's death. She'd reached out to me through Lena after hearing about the toxin match. "Just give me a place and time," she had said. Now here we were. Caroline and Celeste spotted me and walked over, confused but smiling. They didn't even pretend to feel guilty. "What's going on?" Caroline asked, sliding into the seat across from me. "You sounded urgent." I looked at both of them. Celeste sat beside her, poised, hands folded like we were here to discuss vacation plans. I pulled my phone from my jacket pocket and hit play. At first, it was just background noise. Then Caroline's voice came through, crisp and unmistakable. "He's flying, right?" Celeste's smirk faded. Caroline stiffened. I can rig the rudder servo, make it look like a mechanical failure. The cafe didn't stop, but the noise around us dimmed in my ears. Their faces told the story. Pale, tight, like the oxygen had been sucked out of their lungs. Marcus, Caroline whispered, her voice trembling. What is this? You don't recognize your own voice? I asked calmly. Odd. You were awfully confident saying all of it. Turn that off. Celeste's voice was sharp now, loud enough to draw a few glances from nearby tables. I'm just getting to the good part, I said. Once the money clears, we'll send Grant to some Ivy League out of state. Stop it, Caroline hissed. I looked straight at her. You plotted my death in the house I built, in the kitchen where I cook your damn meals. And now you want to squirm because people are listening. Her eyes darted around. You're insane. That's when Melanie stood up. She held up her phone, still recording. Hello, Celeste. Celeste froze. Julia's death wasn't an accident, Melanie said, stepping closer. And now I have your next murder plot on tape. Smile for the internet. You bitch, Celeste stood, knocking over her chair. A waiter rushed over, but I raised a hand. Don't, I told him. She's just about to confess to conspiracy to commit murder. A few people pulled out phones. One woman gasped. A man 2 tables over started filming. Caroline's face crumpled. Please, she said. Marcus, you don't understand. No, I cut her off. You don't get to play the victim now. Celeste grabbed her purse and stormed toward the exit. 2 police officers, tipped off by Melanie earlier, intercepted her just outside the cafe doors. Caroline turned to me one last time. Why didn't you just come to me first? I looked at her for a long moment. I did. For 18 years. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The officers reached our table, cuffs already out. I didn't look back as they took her away. I just stood up, nodded to Melanie, and walked out into the afternoon sun. The war was over, and I'd won without ever firing a shot. It was 3 months later when the final court date passed. Caroline was convicted of attempted murder and fraud. Celeste, real name Celeste Wren Armory, was extradited to California to face charges tied to Julia's suspicious death. Melanie's recordings had gone viral, with just enough blur to preserve privacy, but plenty of substance to ensure public interest. Turns out, the court of public opinion moves faster than the legal system. Grant and I sat in the back of the courtroom the day Caroline was sentenced. He didn't speak much, just stared straight ahead, arms crossed. He hadn't spoken to her since the hospital. I used to think she loved you, he said quietly as we stood outside afterward. Maybe not at first, but I thought at some point, she grew to care. I looked at him, this young man who'd carried a burden no kid should have had to bear. She didn't love anyone, son. Just what she thought she could get. He nodded. Didn't cry. Neither did I. 2 weeks after the trial, we reopened the garage under new management, Doyle and Doyle Auto. Lena bought in with me, said she wanted to be more than just a silent partner. Grant helped design the new logo. It felt clean, like washing oil off your hands after a long day. Business doubled in the first month. Folks had seen the headlines. Some came in just to shake my hand. Others brought their cars, happy to support a man who'd been through hell and walked out the other side. Grant was thriving too. He'd chosen a small liberal arts college in Colorado, full scholarship, thanks to a local veterans foundation that caught wind of the story. He was studying psychology, of all things. You really want to figure out people that bad? I teased one night as we packed his things. He grinned. Only the ones like her. I want to know what makes them tick. I got it. A week after he left for school, I received a letter. No return address, just my name in Caroline's handwriting. I didn't open it. I walked out back, lit the grill, and burned it on the coals. Some things don't deserve answers. I watched the paper curl and blacken, then tossed a fresh steak on the grates. The sun was setting behind the shop, casting everything in gold. For the first time in years, the house behind me didn't feel like a cage. Later that night, I stood in the doorway with a cold beer, staring out at the dark yard. Quiet. Still. No lies. No games. Just the sound of my own breathing. I wasn't the same man who'd made gumbo that Monday night. That man believed in routine, in comfort, in the idea that love covered all sins. This man? He believed in truth. And from now on, that's all we'd live by.